course. Some of these policies are dictated from above, and some of them are my own personal preference. So if you go down on the syllabus I'm going to start with what I call standard writing programs policies. I'm going to go back up to the FAQ. One of the most important policies to understand in this course is the standard writing programs policy on attendance. This is a policy that is dictated from above, from my department, and there is very little wiggle room in this policy. So what this policy says is that in order to pass the class, you need to regularly attend class. Students who miss more than 2 absences will result in a failure in our online course, okay? Now, many of you are probably wondering, what is an absence in an online course? The definition of an absence in an online course is a student who fails to post an acceptable assignment to the class website during the assigned window of time. Okay, so for example, if we say you were scheduled to be discussion leader for discussion number 1. Say you miss that. You don't post at all. That's an absence. If you were, same thing, if you were a linker or a replier for discussion number 1, say you missed that, that is an absence. The other things, say you fail to post your rough draft. If you miss that, that's an absence, okay? So these are the assignment windows that we're talking about. So basically, anytime that you have a 0 in the grade book, you also have an absence. So both of these things, in terms of thinking about, hey, how do I pass this course, right? Not posting is going to give you an absence, but it's also going to give you 0 points. Now, what kind of wiggle room is there with that? I would say in my course there's very little. I don't accept late work, so if you were supposed to just post discussion board number 1 as a leader, and on week like 4 of the class you go, hey, can I make that up? My answer is always going to be no. Because again, our course moves at a certain pace, and I don't allow students to go back and do work. It's a pain in the butt for me, and it's also unfair to the students who are doing their work continually. Now, one of the things I want to talk about is technical problems online. So what happens if I'm having a tech issue? These don't happen all the time. I will say is that most of the time you all are very good about getting your stuff together, working on, the Schoology site is super easy to navigate. Posting videos to YouTube are very easy. It's really a record and drag and drop. Sometimes the uploading process can take a little while, so you're going to want to give yourself time to do that. Google Docs is super easy to navigate. So all of those things, in terms of like technology from my side, all of those things seem to work pretty well on a pretty consistent basis. So I urge you all to work on your own technology from your own side. So you need to make sure you have a consistent working internet connection. You need to make sure that you know all your passwords to Schoology and MyASU, and those accounts are functional and working, that you're able to get and send emails. This is something I would be doing before the class starts. Now, if you're having technical problems and they are your fault, like my internet wasn't working last night, I can't accept your work as late. right? That's a technical problem that's on you. I would suggest to always post early, as early as you can, because this will help alleviate some of those issues. So if you're always posting at 11:50 and your internet goes out, that's an issue that's your own. But if you say, the deadline's midnight, say you started posting at 9 o'clock and you had issues with your internet, you could still find time to drive over to the nearest Starbucks or go over to your friend's house and use their internet. If I ever need to be absent, which sounds really, really weird, in an online class, if I ever need an extended period of time where I don't contact you, or I'm unavailable, I will let you know in advance. Like, for instance, if something happened, if I went into emergency surgery or had a huge problem, which none of these things have ever happened, I will contact you in enough time to let you know, and or I will also engage another person, a colleague of mine, to help facilitate this course. So you will most 99.9% of the time, I am over communicating with you. I am constantly here for you. So I won't need to be quote unquote absence. The grading here is whole letter grades, okay? So A, B, C, D, and E, you will be given those grades at the end of the semester. So a 90 to 100 is considered an A, an 80 to an 89 is considered a B, a 70 to a 79 is considered a C, a 60 to a 69 is considered a D, and anything below that is considered an E. So I don't award A pluses on final papers or for the class. So if you are really hoping to earn an A plus in this course, you might want to think about withdrawing and taking another course, because I believe writing is such a process. That's part of the logic behind not awarding A pluses on final projects and on final course letter grades. Everything you write for our course, including discussions, including papers, you should consider public and shareable. Not that I'm trying to share your writing with the Arizona Republic or outside individuals, but they're public in terms of this course. If I ever needed to share your writing beyond this course, I would ask your permission. But your colleagues, the people in your course, need to be able to read your writing. So if you have things that you don't want to share and you don't want to say, don't do it, is what I say. I very infrequently ask students to post super personal stuff. And even in that case, I would ask you to just share what you're comfortable sharing, okay? In terms of accepting late work, like I said, I don't accept late work. So if you're trying to turn in a discussion post or a rough draft or a peer review late, you will most likely not get it accepted. Now, I've had students in the past who have came to me ahead of time and asked for an extension. This isn't saying that, hey, discussion 1 was due last night and I didn't finish it. Can I have an extension? This is somebody who said, hey, I've had a death in the family and I'm going to be at a funeral all day on Monday. I'm not going to have a chance to reply to discussion 1. Can you give me until Tuesday? And these are in the cases that somebody has contacted me before the problem, okay? I normally am sympathetic and I allow for that because the student has taken initiative and showed responsibility and put it together beforehand. But I don't kind of do the, oh my gosh, I forgot to do this, help thing. So keep a good schedule, right? You have the syllabus, put it in your phone. Put an alarm or a timer or an appointment or something, right? Put aside time to work on this course. Put aside regularly scheduled time to work on this course. The only thing that I do accept late is final writing projects. And the only reason I accept those late is because my department says that I have to give you the chance to complete all 3 writing projects. That said, there is a steep penalty attached to turning in final writing projects late. For every single day that you turn in the paper late, you will be docked a letter grade. So if you turned in a paper today that was due yesterday, the highest possible grade you can receive on it is a B. If you turn that paper in tomorrow, it's a C. If you turned it in the following day, it's a D, and so on. At some point, again, if you turned in paper 1 at the end of the semester, the highest grade that you will be able to receive is a failing grade. So keep that in mind. In terms of what's important for the class, certainly it's definitely important for you to be keeping up with discussions so that you get points and that you get marked here. However, in terms of making sure like what should be prioritized, your final papers, you should definitely place a heavy priority on getting those in on time. So all writing for this class must be written for this class. Any sort of cut and paste from the internet, any sort of false attribution or failure to attribute work to a source, like not quoting heavily from a source, but not citing it at all, can be considered plagiarism. And also resubmitting a paper from another class also can be considered plagiarism or academic dishonesty. So what I tell students here is don't do any of those things. If you're unsure about citing a source, post a question to the cyber cafe about it. Get help on that before so that you know how to cite a source so that you're not accused of plagiarism. If you run into a moment where you're either going to turn in a late paper or you're going to plagiarize a paper, turn in a late paper because the consequences for academic dishonesty are steep. You could be expelled from the university, and you do not want that to happen. Any violent, threatening, or disruptive behavior, sometimes, obviously, we don't have a physical class, but keeping the discussion boards PC enough, right? I fully believe in challenging viewpoints and arguing fairly, but I don't believe in, personally attacking people and, threatening them based on their beliefs and opinions. So again, we're going to strive, and I don't normally have problems with this, we're going to strive to keep the discussions at a good temperament. That arguing and disagreeing is awesome, but arguing and disagreeing in ways that are attacking people personally and calling them names and threatening them are not okay. There are accommodations for students with disabilities. You need to have some information with the Disability Resource Center on file for me to accommodate you. If you don't, I can't accommodate you, so keep that in mind. There will be a portfolio collection at the end of the semester. Look for details. This means keep all your final drafts and major projects. You'll be submitting them to the writing program's digital archive. And then finally, keep all your papers until the term is over. If you have any grade disputes, you're going to want to keep your paper because that's the kind of information they're going to ask you for. So don't just dump everything after you're done turning it in. Keep a folder on your computer that says, English 102, and keep at least all your major papers in there. So those are the policies that come straight from above. I want to go over some of the FAQs here. These are frequently asked questions. I've put them together because you ask them. So our 7-week or our online course, what does it look like? We have a start date and a finish date. If you're in my B session or in one of my other courses, they might be different than this one, but we will mainly communicate between Schoology, YouTube, Google Docs, email, and Google Hangouts. In terms of requirements, I've said this before, I'm asking you to check in very frequently in this class, okay? Because it's an accelerated course. We're fitting a traditional 6-week course into a smaller chunk of time. Everything that we do happens more quickly. So you're going to want to be checking in all the time. And we've talked about what's required of you: 3 major writing projects and a final reflection, discussions, peer reviews, rough drafts, and the cyber cafe. We've also, in the requirements video, if you haven't watched that yet, you will. It'll talk a little bit more about how the discussions work. I don't want to go over it too much, but this is a good place for you to continue as you're trying to learn how these discussion works. This is a good place for you to continue to reference as you're thinking about and trying to remember how these discussions works. The course is located online, and our major kind of stomping ground for this course is Schoology. I will send out emails through your ASU email, so you need to check that out. But in terms of our Schoology account, you'll also notice that there's this place. Looks like my internet connection is being funny. There's this place. Give me 1 second. You'll notice that there's this place for updates, and I will post updates here more often. So this might be, hey, I updated something, or hey, reminder, do this. So keep that in mind. What about the book? Do I need it? What if I can't get it? This is a question I get pretty frequently from students. I understand that you all have financial hardships and troubles. However, the book is required for this course. Sometimes you will lean on it heavily, sometimes you won't. You will read almost the entire book. Either way, it's required. If you're having troubles getting it, my suggestion is to contact another classmate and see if maybe you can borrow theirs, copy theirs, arrange something. It is because of this question that I've picked a book that is so inexpensive for you all. In terms of contacting me, I've said it before, email is the best way to get a hold of me. If you have a general question, remember the Cyber Cafe is a great place for this. You get credit for participating in this, so I urge you to do that. In terms of email, I want to remind you that I have more students than just you all. So in terms of email, be professionals. I will quite often get emails from students that are one line, no subject, what's up, what's due, right? I don't even know how to respond to that because number one, I don't know which one of my courses you're in. I don't know when you're talking about what's due. I don't know if you're having a question just about what's due. Like, I would probably try to point that person to the syllabus and say, look at the syllabus. Are you having a question about the assignment in and of itself, or are you having just a question in general? So all of those things need to be taken into account. So for me, I would like you to send an email with a subject line that has something to do with the course. And also, explain in more detail and identify yourself. Lastly, I will respond to emails as soon as I possibly can. I'm usually very good at getting back to students over email, especially Monday through Friday. Normally it takes me 24 hours. However, on the weekends, I have a family and we do fun stuff. We take time off, we travel. So on the weekends, sometimes I don't check email, or sometimes I don't check email as frequently. So it may take if you email me Friday evening before midnight, I might not get back to you until Sunday evening or even Monday morning. So keep that in mind. For tech support, I suggest that you contact a couple of different places. Number one, I think that you should try to fix your own issues by yourself first. My job here is to teach you writing, not to teach you technology. The things that I'm asking you to do with technology aren't that difficult. Like posting a Google Doc isn't really that difficult. I've even put together some videos on it. If you're having a hard time with it, or if your technology is having a hard time with it, try actually just Googling it, right? I can't tell you how many times I've fixed something on my computer or something on my end by just Googling it, by just asking the question of the internet and looking at discussion forums on, say, MacBook or something like that, and finding a fix to an issue. Schoology has a help center for anything related to that website. ASU has a help desk. If you're having problems with any of the Google stuff, like the ASU Google Docs or anything like that, I would suggest starting there if you need to actually talk to somebody. Because quite often I can answer questions, but I'm not trained in terms of that. And I also can't see what you're seeing on your end. I know my technological situation, but I don't know yours. The other thing you might want to do is send something out to the cyber cafe. I can't tell you how often I have, students of varying technological experience in our classes. And quite often there'll be somebody who's really good at technology who will go through and answer all the questions for the people who are having a hard time with some of these things. If you have problems with your internet, I talked about that. You are not excused to the work and you cannot make it up. I always tell students to know their hours to their nearest internet hub. This could be Starbucks, this could be McDonald's, this could be the public library, this could be your best friend's house. Know when they're open. I also tell students to post early. How do I take attendance? You are marked here for completing an assignment on time. You are marked absent for failing.
It's 12 o'clock.
You are marked absent for failing to complete an assignment. So zeros equal absences. Now, if there's a 0 and you actually did the work, send me an email. I do make mistakes, and that's fine. I am all about fixing them. Again, on late work, if you're having a hard time keeping up with the course, you might even want to consider withdrawing from the course. I hate to say it, but more frequently than my regular 16-week class. Students that have an issue or multiple issues or who are trying to do too much, often this 7.5 week or accelerated course is what gives them the most trouble. And so in terms of being able to complete the work here, this is the course where it will do you in, because it asks you to be there all the time and do a lot of work in a short period of time. I think it's great if you can get this course out of the way in this format, but I also don't think that this format is for everyone. It is for the extremely responsible and extremely diligent and extremely organized student. I try my best to help you, and I really, really do hope that everyone passes and or gets the grade that they desires in this course. So I also want to look at our course schedule really quick. You'll notice that all work is due before midnight on the day listed. I also tell you to do all reading and viewing before the assignment. So before, for example, if you are a discussion leader for discussion 1, I want you to read chapter 1, read this article, view the assignment sheet, pick a documentary for paper 1, and start watching it before you lead the discussion, okay? So do all of that stuff before you do the assignment. Every single person is assigned this stuff, not just discussion leaders. Like I said, you'll notice that these overlap. So while discussion number 1 is kind of coming to a close with the leaders and repliers, discussion 2 will be happening. And then the same thing with discussion 2 and discussion 3. And then at some point in, a couple of weeks, we come to the point where you'll be putting together a rough draft of the major project from that unit. Now, this doesn't mean that you shouldn't have been thinking about that since, day 1 or day 2 of the course. It just means that some of these discussions, we're building skills and asking questions that will help you put together your rough draft. However, I think that you should be working on your rough draft throughout these couple of weeks, or working towards your project throughout these couple of weeks. So that's the case for all projects, is we work, again, this class works project to project. So as we start this class, your project asks you about, this documentary for paper number 1. View your documentary. Start thinking about what a rhetorical analysis is and what your rhetorical analysis of this documentary is. Start drafting parts so that the more prepared students, by the time this rough draft is due, they're not having to, stay up all night or cram or really maybe even only finishing parts of it. They've got a really complete, good picture to get good feedback on. And then after we do rough drafts, we do peer reviews. After we do peer reviews, we write final essays. So that's unit 1, and unit 2 is pretty similar. There's no really big variation at all. There's a handful of discussions that you'll participate in, and then you'll put together a rough draft. You'll peer review each other's rough draft. You'll turn in a final paper, and then you'll move on to unit number 3, where you'll work on project number 3. So for me, the structure of our class is pretty simple. So that is our course in a nutshell. If you have any questions, please post them to the Cyber Cafe, especially if they deal with very general things. If you have very specific questions about your own personal situation, you may wait and send me an email.